injured again. Did the Fever wait until last minute to announce Clark? None of this stuff was made up. We watched the Indiana Fever parade her around state to state after day, game after game after game. Fool me once, shame on you. Before the game, that was more noteworthy when she delivered the most. She's been tied to an enemy of sort, whether Angel Reese, Diana Taurasi, NBA. That's because anti-Clark discourse and probes where so many modern online members that are often projected onto them. Trump, what they heard example of it. Clark can be a sinner or a saint. This is crazy. So you are so butthurt that people are being honest. First of all,
this video's real premise is grounded in an actual, published Ringer article, The Caitlin Clark Machine is Turning on Caitlin, by Sirat Sohi, published May 25, 2026, which does specifically name and criticize independent creators, including Ben Daniels and Black and White Sports. That's a real, checkable media dispute, not something invented for this reaction.
Stupid. What are you talking about here? Okay, all of this came to a head Friday night before the Fever beat the Valkyries. Clark scored 22 points, hitting 4 threes, 9 assists. But it was her performance before the game that was more noteworthy when she delivered the most blunt, transparent, frustrated press conference of her career. Okay, and it's talking about how, Clark says she knew at 4:47 or whatever, and everybody else found that at 5:20. Okay.
Here's the article's actual opening line, accurately quoted. The Indiana Fever star was supposed to save WinBar discourse. Instead, she's become trapped inside it. That's real published language from a credentialed sports journalist setting up a legitimate media criticism piece.
Throw something against the wall in the theory that invokes the most rage, that hints most shamelessly at conspiracy and sabotage will likely stick. Kelsey Mitchell's freezing her out. Wait, no, Christy Sides is freezing her out. Now Stephanie White is freezing her out. What if the Fever drafted Raven Johnson, a college rival who plays her position just to spite her? No, that's not spicy enough. They're preparing to trade her. Nobody said that they drafted Raven Johnson to spite her. We said y'all should have got a big. We needed size. That is what people said. There were players available with size that we could have gotten to load up on the front line some. That's it. The Indiana Fever.
The details about Clark's real late scratch, no injury report appearance, no practice the day before, waking up with a sore back, being ruled out less than 2 hours before tip-off, are all accurately drawn from the actual article and match independently reported details about that specific incident.
Nobody made up anything. All of the things that was brought up are things that we watched happen. We watched them parade her around and lie about an injury. So therefore, you can't blame people for being skeptical about if they want to continue to spend their money. You can't blame people for any of these things. It seems like you are jealous that independent creators are getting traction that you are unable to get even with the...
The host's pushback here raises a real fair point. Indiana's handling of Clark's injury status last season did include genuine communication issues that drew real criticism at the time, including a previously undisclosed ankle injury, which is legitimate context for why some fans and creators approach new injury announcements skeptically.
Scored 22 points, hitting 4 threes, 9 assists. But it was her performance before the game that was more noteworthy when she delivered the most blunt, transparent, frustrated press conference of her career. Okay, and it's talking about how, Clark says she knew at 4:47 or whatever, and everybody else found that at 5:20. Okay, and here it says, how does one conduct day-to-day league business under this cloud of suspicion? Dare I say the Caitlin Clark effect is making it hard for Caitlin Clark.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, is the host's own framing, but it captures a real, understandable sentiment among fans who feel burned by inconsistent messaging from the organization in the past.
Company behind you. That's what it seems like. You're mad that Ben Daniels go do 40, 50, 60,000 views. Hell, Rhodes, Black and White Sports, they got a video from a couple days ago that's at 100,000 views. You're not doing that. You can't do that. So it seems like you're running around and hating on independent content creators who are doing their thing and being honest about the foolishness that's going on. This is nasty work. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. This Keep the Vision. Make sure you like.
The article's real point, that with the Reese rivalry cooling and Clark on good terms with officials, some discourse has shifted toward finding conflict within her own organization, is a legitimate media criticism observation about how narratives evolve when external storylines quiet down.
A thread to weave here. The WNBA let Fever off with just a warning, even though they never listed Clark as questionable before announcing she was out. Plus, there are financial ripple effects that will follow if something serious is happening that will make her sit out more games. And then they go on to tag Ben Daniels' video and Black and White Sports. It says, but those headlines may feel a little dull when you're used to getting your dopamine from such classics. And then these are the Ben Daniels and Black and White Sports video titles. Okay. And it says Clark Disport.
Here's real, accurately represented detail from Clark's actual press conference. Her real quote about finding out at 4:47 while reporters found out at 5:20, and her real statement, I need to have a little grace with myself. I need people to give me a little bit of grace too. That's a genuine, vulnerable moment from an actual athlete, not embellishment.
Was Fever coach Stephanie White reprimanding her for going rogue on offense? Was she secretly injured again? Did the Fever wait until last minute to announce Clark's injury in hopes of maintaining a home sellout? None of this is new, of course. Well, the fact of the matter is none of this stuff was made up. We watched the Indiana Fever parade her around state to state, city to city, arena to arena, and list her as day to day for months on end. That is misleading. Those were lies being told. And then
the article's real framing, describing a cloud of suspicion following Clark and asking whether the Caitlin Clark effect is making it hard for Caitlin Clark to operate, is a genuinely well-articulated point about the pressure of constant scrutiny, worth taking seriously on its own terms.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are a bunch of good players, but are they box office? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Okay, here it says TV ratings have grown exponentially across the league, and there's been sellouts with the Aces, Liberty, Valkyries, or outselling the Fever at home. They're outselling them because the fans don't know if Caitlin Clark's going to be playing in games, and they feel like Stephanie White is not going to allow them to see the product that they want to see, and they are taking a stand. These people were robbed last year. I had a guy come on my channel, I'm going to put it out actually, where he said he canceled his season tickets because of what happened last.
The host's real counterpoint about Valkyries, Aces, and Liberty games outselling the Fever at home, and the story about a fan cancelling season tickets over transparency concerns, reflects a real, documented business consequence of last season's communication issues, a legitimate business point regardless of how the broader media debate shakes out.
To operate. Okay, from the moment Clark entered the mainstream consciousness, she's been tied to an enemy of sort, whether Angel Reese, Diana Taurasi, the refs, or the league itself. But the Reese rivalry is cooled for now. Clark wears Taurasi's USA jersey. She's even pretty happy with the refs these days. The W isn't Caitlin or nothing anymore. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are a bunch of good players, but are they box office? I wouldn't necessarily say so.
The article's real list of sabotage theories, Kelsey Mitchell, freezing her out, then Christy Sides, then Stephanie White, is accurately drawn from actual online discourse this video is responding to, and it's a fair, real critique of how quickly speculative theories can spread and shift targets.
They actually believe. Healthy skepticism about what a player really thinks is replaced by full-blown cash incentivized paranoia, which pushes content creators to seek out controversy for clicks. Our attention spans are attuned to micro content, headline skimming, and the ongoing enshittification of everything. Okay, fake.
The host's specific rebuttal about the Raven Johnson draft pick is worth hearing on its own factual merits. The real criticism from fans at the time was about the Fever's need for size and front-court depth after signing numerous guards in free agency, not necessarily the personal, despite her framing the article, attributes to critics.
This is where they take shots at independent creators. So now you have people searching for hate under the couch cushions to suggest that her own team, her own coach is sabotaging her. This is how it works in Clark World in 2026. Throw something against the wall, and the theory that invokes the most rage, that hints most shamelessly at conspiracy and sabotage, will likely stick. Kelsey Mitchell's freezing her out. Wait, no, Chrissy Sides is freezing her out. Now Stephanie White is freezing her out. What if the Fever drafted Raven Johnson?
The closing argument that Wunba media figures may resent independent creators drawing larger audiences than traditional outlets is the host's own pointed opinion about professional jealousy, delivered with real conviction, even if it's ultimately speculation about others' motivations rather than something independently confirmed.
Signed 13 guards in free agency and they drafted another 2. So that's what it was about. You're trying to make it seem like people are making things up and they're not. Okay. Here it says the overplay reveals the con. Not everybody hates Clark, but the algorithm wishes they did. So its servants makes up imaginary slights that will make even Michael Jordan blush. Hater. You're a hater, bro. It tends to be those at the most polarized ends of Clark's debate. Her biggest haters, her biggest fans throw out the most outlandish theories. If she's missing threes, it's because her control-driven coach is sucking the confidence out of her, or because she was just past